Imagine this. What would happen when handsome men and beautiful women arrive on a remote island where no birds even shit? What would happen? How do they manage their daily survival? Today, Xiaoku is taking his girlfriend, Xiaolan, to collect some useful driftwood on the deserted island. Sometimes, an abandoned plastic barrel and a shell can be of great use when necessary. Looking at the handmade bags hanging around the temporary shelter, one can tell that Xiaolan is a talented lady, gazing at the tumultuous waves in the distance. It seems like a storm is about to come. So, Xiaolan lines up the shells she just picked up, in a row on the wooden planks, to collect the incoming rainwater. Because the deserted island is surrounded by ocean on all sides, there is very little usable fresh water available. Every time it rains is a great opportunity to collect fresh water. Xiaolan certainly wouldn't miss this. On the other side, Xiaoku wasn't idle either. He picked up a coconut. He smashed it hard against the metal pole back and forth. The incredibly hard coconut was stripped in no time. The thick shell was completely removed. Then Xiaoku took the dragon-slaying knife. He gently tapped the back of the knife on the coconut shell a few times. The coconut split into two pieces instantly. The snow-white coconut flesh was revealed before him. Then Xiaoku took a small piece of coconut flesh with a knife to taste. The taste was absolutely amazing. At the same time, he didn't forget to let his girlfriend taste it. With delicious food and beautiful scenery, and a beautiful woman by his side, what more could he ask for? The container Xiaolan prepared in advance to collect rainwater truly showed foresight. The rain is continuously falling with a rhythmic patter. At this moment, the two had no other thoughts. They could only shelter in the temporary shelter and enjoy the rainy scenery. In order not to waste time, Xiaoku, he started weaving a windbreak out of coconut leaves. Meanwhile, Xiaolan made a food tray from a few branches and leaves. I must say, this couple's wilderness survival skills are indeed impressive. Now the rain has finally stopped. The containers they had set out earlier collected quite a bit of fresh water. The two filled a coconut shell with some to taste. It was indeed sweet, delicious, and completely unpolluted. After the rain cleared up, an ancient turtle, over 100 years old, had just been washed ashore by the waves. Now it was vigorously trying to swim back to the sea. Upon seeing this, Xiaoku and the others did not interfere too much. They just stood nearby, watching it from a distance, always ready to help. When the old turtle swam out of the sea successfully, Xiaoku and Xiaolan didn't forget to wave goodbye to it. The scenery of this deserted island is indeed beautiful and captivating. On the boundless sea, the waves are turbulent. Each colorful wave connects to the next, rolling, surging with song, surging, looking into the distance. Go. The end of the sea is the sky. The end of the sky is the sea. The sea and sky merge into one. It opens up one's mind. Xiaoku walked barefoot on the beach. An abandoned old tire caught his attention. He tugged at it a few times, seeming to have other ideas. As Xiaoku walked along, he unexpectedly discovered a guava tree. It was laden with many fruits. However, the fruits were not yet ripe. Although the fruit is out of reach, the branches of the guava tree are perfect for making a slingshot. Xiaoku drew a few lines on a tree fork with his finger. Then, without hesitation, he chopped down that branch. He made several cuts with his knife. A simple bow frame model was completed. Then, he used the insole he found earlier as the pouch. He cut an old inner tube into strips to use as the rubber band. In no time, thanks to Xiaoku's ingenuity, a homemade little slingshot was perfectly completed. Xiaoku also made sure to test it by stretching it a few times in front of the camera. Now it's time to practice a bit, using small shells as ammunition. The first shot's accuracy was indeed a bit off, landing below the coconut. However, Xiaoku did not feel disappointed. He drew back the slingshot again and fired the second shot. The shot hit the center of the coconut and it fell to the ground with a thud. The surface of the coconut was clearly dented from the impact of the shot. This proved that the slingshot had decent power. It seems that both the person and the slingshot were to reward himself, he casually picked a coconut, cracked it open, and drank it all in one go. Xiaoku and his girlfriend Xiaolan began preparing dinner for the night. He picked up a spear gun and dashed into the shallow water. A group of leisurely parrotfish were basking in the sunlight. At this moment, Xiaoku seemed to have chosen his target and began to pull back the elastic mechanism. Then he jogged a bit while aiming and fired the spear gun. The parrotfish's agility was impressive. It easily dodged the spear's attack. In the end, Xiaoku returned empty-handed. Now, all the parrotfish had fled. To find food, they had to search for food in deeper waters. Shao Ke put on his diving mask and submerged into the sea. He searched for prey around the coral reef continuously. Shao Ke seemed to have found his target. He gestured with his hand towards Xiaolan. The prey was in a crevice beneath the coral reef. Shao Ke dove back under the water. He tried to move the reef rocks with his hands, but it seemed he had overestimated his strength. The rocks remained completely still. Shao Ke surfaced and told his girlfriend, "There's a lobster under the rocks." Xiaolan was not convinced, so she decided to dive and check for herself. It really was a lobster. However, the waves were getting bigger. Xiaolan was also pushed up to the surface by the crashing waves. In order to get food, Shao Ke also wanted to show off his masculinity in front of his girlfriend. So he ignored the waves crashing over and over again. In the end, he successfully caught the lobster. This lobster was indeed quite large. Just a glance was enough to make one's mouth water. A satisfied Shao Ke high-fived his girlfriend as they came ashore. After admiring the lobster for a while, gathering firewood to make a fire was the top priority. Once the fire had burned down to enough charcoal, Xiaolan placed the lobster directly on the charcoal to steam it. To prevent it from burning, she specifically turned the lobster over, using the lobster shell as a cushion. During the long wait, Xiaolan also remembered to prepare cushions and a table, as well as 2 coconuts for drinks. Shao Ke checked the temperature of the lobster up close with his hand. Plus, the entire lobster had already turned bright red. Based on his years of wilderness survival experience, this lobster is fully cooked. He picked up the dragon-slaying knife and made a cut. The whole lobster was moved to the table. Xiaolan didn't care about much anymore. She secured the camera and sat directly at the table, waiting to enjoy the delicious feast. At this moment, Shao Ke also had no idea where the lemon came from. A small knife cut it into 4 pieces, for enhancing the flavor. Then, he twisted off the lobster's tail with one hand. After opening it, he squeezed lemon juice on it and started to taste it. The endless delicious temptation can be called a true masterpiece. One bite in the mouth, tender in texture, stimulating to the palate, truly irresistible, unbeatable scenery, exquisite food, accompanied by a beautiful companion. Happiness is that simple. Can you guess how much cash this lobster costs in a restaurant? Those who infringe upon my territory, even if far away, they must be punished. This is the narration of a blue crab. Today, Shao Ke and his girlfriend Xiaolan decided to venture deep into the heart of the deserted island. The two chatted and laughed along the way. Plus, today's weather and scenery are quite pleasant. They discovered various types of small crabs along the way. One with black and white spots and a large pink claw on the left. Could they be half-siblings? However, there are other oddities. Some are right-handed strongmen. Others are crabs that climb like spiders on the dry tree stumps. There is a diverse array of wonders. Shao Ke suddenly noticed movement in the shallow water nearby. So, he crept into the cave through the gaps in the driftwood. Under the circumstance where Shao Ke was attacking with both hands, a small fish was forced to reveal itself with nowhere to escape. Just when he finally managed to catch it, who would have thought that while Shao Ke was showing off to the camera, this yellow croaker exerted all its strength. It leapt like a carp jumping over the dragon gate, breaking free from its bonds and escaping. Of course, Shao Ke would not give up easily. He attempted to catch it again. But the yellow croaker also broke free from his grasp once again. Moreover, it was darting back and forth around Shao Ke's feet. It seemed completely indifferent to Shao Ke. But for every boastful moment in the past, it was now equally in a state of embarrassment. The yellow croaker swam carelessly right by the shallow water's edge. Shao Ke seized the opportunity. He performed a hands cradling the moon move. He directly lifted the yellow croaker onto the shore. This time, its life was entrusted to Shao Ke. Of course, a small yellow croaker was not enough for Ke. He discovered a moving object in another shallow area. Zooming in revealed It was actually a small blue crab. Logically speaking, if there are small ones, there must be larger ones as well. So, Xiaoke searched everywhere for the little puddles that blue crabs like to stay in. He reached down to feel around. However, it seemed something brushed against Xiaoke's fingers. A response that could shock the heavens and make ghosts weep. Immediately retracted. Xiaolan, who was nearby, was also startled. Ultimately, Ke gave up on this place and searched for a new love. Along the way, Xiaolan suddenly discovered an animal skull on the ground. She picked it up and examined it carefully. This is a turtle skull. There's no mistake. Moreover, there were many turtle shells nearby. Xiaolan was not afraid at all. Instead, she gathered the turtle shells together. She even took out another turtle skull from inside. She took it out. This foreign girl is really bold. Not long after, Xiaoke finally spotted a relatively large blue crab. He directly flipped over the large rock where the crab was hiding. A pair of strong, robust pincers immediately ready for defense. Xiaoke stepped a little closer. The blue crab immediately attacked with its pincers. At that moment, Xiaoke could only maneuver his left hand to avoid the crab's line of sight. He aimed to capture it from behind. This blue crab was indeed much larger than any crab he had seen before. Look at its strong and sturdy pincers. If he wasn't careful, it could really pinch a person's finger. It could even cause bleeding. However, Xiaoke ultimately released it. He also restored the blue crab's original home. He decided not to disturb it anymore. Because in Xiaoke's mind, this blue crab wasn't big enough. Perhaps in the eyes of many men, the size of the prey is actually important to men. It's very important. While Xiaoke was looking for food, Xiaolan wasn't idle either. She didn't want her boyfriend to have to reach into unknown holes with his hands every time. So, he found a branch for him to use. At that moment, Xiaoke discovered a giant soft-shelled crab lying still in the mud. He picked up a nearby crab shell and compared it. Then he cupped the soft-shelled crab in his hands. He pressed on its claws. It was soft. He even leaned down to sniff the crab. Everything seemed normal, no strange odor. It seemed that this soft-shelled crab had just molted recently. Soft-shelled crabs are a temporary form shortly after molting. Crabs undergo 3 molts in their lifetime. Each transformation and growth marks the beginning of a new life. During molting, they also shed their gills, stomachs, and internal organs. As a result, he had no trace of dirt on him. Soft-shelled crabs are very rare in nature. This is because the crab's new shell will gradually harden after a few hours of being in water following molting. Now, Xiaoke seemed to have made a greater discovery. He picked up a stick and began poking into the crevices of the small puddle. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The stick, as thick as a finger, snapped in response. Xiaolan, who was nearby, also exclaimed in surprise. It won't be broken by something hiding in the crevice, right? That would be too scary. To protect his delicate hands, Xiaoke decided to use both sticks to flush out the culprit. A while passed. The prey still hid in the crevice, too afraid to show itself to him. At this moment, Xiaolan could no longer hold back. She secured the camera. She directly called Xiaoke to help her flip over the large rock. Xiaoke was still quite meticulous in his actions. To prevent the flipped rock from crushing the prey, he even used a stick to check if the prey was still there first. Only then did he feel at ease to place the large rock down. Soon after, the silhouette of the prey gradually became visible. Suddenly, a giant claw attacked the stick. It seemed to be hostile towards the piece of wood. It was understandable. A perfectly fine nap left these two guys in chaos. It would be surprising if they didn't get angry. However, the law of the jungle has always been survival of the fittest. No matter how much you resent it, a strong fist is the ultimate truth. Xiaoke grabbed the giant blue crab by the back of its head with his right hand. In that instant, as it got up, both of them gasped in astonishment. They couldn't believe how huge this crab was. Xiaoke even pointed at the crab's large claws for the camera. He thought to himself. Thankfully, he hadn't blindly reached out to touch it. A moment of carelessness could easily have cost him a finger. It was terrifying. Now there are both fish and crab, and also 2 claw parts from a soft-shelled crab. It looks like tonight's meal will be abundant. Without further ado, they hurried back to camp to start cooking. Xiaolan returned to the shelter. The first thing she did was hang up 2 turtle skulls. The camp instantly had a wilderness survival vibe. What do you think? While Xiaolan waited for the charcoal to heat up, she began to prepare the ingredients for tonight's cooking. The dragon-slaying knife struck the top of the coconut several times. The coconut immediately had a notch cut into it. Instantly, the white coconut flesh and abundant coconut water were revealed. This is the pot for tonight's cooking. Xiaoke placed the severed limbs of the soft-shelled crab into the coconut. Then he covered it with a lid. These 2 pots of coconut stewed crab claw meat were thus completed. Now, they just need to be placed over the charcoal and covered with wood to simmer. Waiting for the delicious food to be ready often feels incredibly long. After a while, the hungry and thirsty Xiaolan still couldn't hold back. Holding the dragon-slaying knife, he went to check if the coconut with crab claw meat was done. He gently pushed the lid open. A fragrant smell of coconut milk wafted towards him. However, the crab claw meat inside seemed undercooked. To ensure that there were no unforeseen issues in the wilderness survival, Xiaoke suggested increasing the heat to simmer it a bit longer. This time, it should be fully cooked. The shells of both coconuts were burnt black. The crab claw meat inside had turned a golden color. After confirming it was fully cooked, Xiaolan carefully moved the 2 coconuts next to the fire. Meanwhile, Xiaoku brought the yellow croaker to the seaside. He used a small knife to gut and clean it thoroughly. To protect the yellow croaker from burning as much as possible, Xiaolan did not remove the scales from the yellow croaker. She directly placed it on the charcoal fire to roast. The giant blue crab was also put on the charcoal fire. As the saying goes, share the blessings together. Face difficulties together. In preparation for the upcoming seafood feast, Xiaoku still pays attention to the atmosphere. He used a small piece of wood as a table on the stones. 2 leaves served as plates. When getting ready to eat, he also remembered to call his girlfriend. He took out the golden crab claw meat from the coconut. He peeled off the layer of soft cartilage. The delicious crab claw meat filled the entire palate. At this time, the giant blue crab was also roasted to a bright red. Xiaolan wanted to take off its big claw to taste it, but one accidentally got burned and kept pulling back his hands. With no other choice, he could only use a stone to smash it to vent his frustrations. The soft-shelled crab had its hard shell removed, revealing the large and succulent crab meat. Isn't this a delicacy of the world? The unbeatable scenery, the intoxicating food, and with a beautiful companion. Happiness is just that simple. To survive in the wilderness, one must possess 3 essential skills. First and foremost is obtaining drinkable fresh water. Secondly, how to quickly obtain food and build a shelter. Currently, the fresh water available for Xiaoku and his girlfriend Xiaolan is sufficient for now. They plan to reinforce the temporary shelter a bit today, to make sleeping at night more comfortable and safe. The seawater keeps washing against the shore. The 2 of them happily and contentedly began searching for reinforcement materials on the beach. The bamboo washed ashore by the sea makes for excellent building material. I'm tired from picking. At any time, I can just pick a few coconuts to quench my thirst and satisfy my hunger. The entire island is heavily surrounded by coconut trees. There's an endless supply of coconut water and coconut flesh, rotating continuously in the same direction like this. A huge coconut can be successfully obtained. Even Xiaolan can easily get one. Now, Xiaoku is bringing back all the bamboo he just collected to reinforce the camp. The roof of the temporary shelter was built with fresh palm leaves. As time goes by, the leaves start to dry out and shrink. Many gaps appear in the roof. It can't stop the rainwater from coming in when it rains. Today, I have to lay a few more layers of palm leaves on the roof. However, Xiaoku is quite particular about things. He returned to the house. He still crossed and secured some loose leaves tightly. This improved the roof's waterproofing. Meanwhile, Xiaolan was also busy. She collected a lot of stones from the beach. She replaced all the coconuts that were around the fire pit. This way, it would be safer when cooking over the fire. I have to say, Xiaolan's fire safety awareness is quite strong. After reinforcing the roof, the walls of the shelter also needed some work. He took a stone and hit the bamboo fiercely, attempting to break it apart brutally. However, it was still not as effective as a dragon-slaying knife. After Xiaolan started the fire, she immediately helped Xiaoku. She dug a deep trench under the wall of the shelter. This way, the bamboo can be inserted more securely into the sandy soil. The 2 coordinate and help each other. This kind of team spirit, it is especially important in wilderness survival. Once they finished building the campsite, they began foraging for food. Xiaolan picked up 2 sprouted coconuts on the beach. The sprouted coconuts. The root system inside has not yet developed, called coconut gem. The coconut gem is actually the seed inside a mature coconut, and the seed swells accordingly. It forms a spherical coconut gem. It is hard to find this kind of coconut gem in the market. However, on this deserted island dominated by coconut trees, coconut gems can be found everywhere. With the addition of vegetarian food, protein is, of course, essential. Xiaoku, holding a homemade slingshot, began to venture deeper into the coconut grove in search of prey. However, they haven't caught any prey for the time being. But the pouch of the homemade slingshot got too much force and tore open. Helpless, Xiaoku could only return to the campsite for now. At this moment, Xiaolan picked up a sprouting coconut. She smashed it against the iron post a few times with all her might. Then, she forcefully pried it open with both hands. The thick coconut husk was torn in half by her. This woman's hand strength is incredible. In no time at all, the coconut husk was stripped clean. She picked up the dragon-slaying knife and struck it around the coconut shell. The split coconut immediately revealed the snow-white coconut gem inside. Just looking at it makes you want to take a bite. Meanwhile, Xiaoku found a strap. This kind of strap made from nylon fabric is good material for making slingshot pouches. Not only is it sturdy, but the opening is not easy to tear. He directly took a small piece and punched a hole in it. He also replaced the rubber band with one from a spearfishing slingshot, tying it up in a bundle. A brand new slingshot made from a playing card was perfectly completed. Xiaoku certainly wouldn't miss the chance to show off in front of his girlfriend. Now to collect suitable ammunition. After trying a few shots, He re-entered the coconut grove to hunt again. Soon, Xiaoke noticed some movement ahead. A trembling red crab was hiding under a tree hole, while another crab hadn't had time to hide. Xiaoke immediately drew his bow and shot. With a loud bang, he hit the target. The entire shell of the crab was shattered into pieces by the bullet. Looking at the lifeless appearance of the crab, it's certain that lethal strike from Xiaoke just now caused the crab to die instantly without any pain. This should be considered a form of relief, right? In the blink of an eye, another crab has fallen. It seems Xiaoke's slingshot skills are getting better and better. After getting some protein, the two of them returned to the camp feeling satisfied to begin tonight's candlelit dinner. While Xiaolan was bored waiting for the charcoal to heat up, she suddenly thought of a new way to eat the coconut gem. Directly roasting the coconut gem on the dragon-slaying knife over the fire. In no time, she picked up the coconut gem and started eating. I saw her nodding repeatedly at the camera. Could this way of preparing the coconut gem be even tastier? I want to give it a try if I get the chance. The firewood is almost ready now. Place 2 crabs on the charcoal to start grilling. Set the table and drinks. Waiting seems to be the only option for now. The crabs are already cooked. Although tonight's candlelight dinner is a bit simple, the smiles on their faces show how much they are enjoying this moment. Love is that simple. Early the next morning, they thought of a special cooking method they had never tried before. However, they first need to catch some food. Xiaolan puts on her diving suit and takes her spear gun as she begins to dive underwater to hunt. Countless fish swim freely at the bottom of the sea, completely unaware of the danger approaching. The multitude of fish makes Xiaolan a bit dizzy. She had no choice but to lie at the bottom of the sea, searching for fish hiding in the coral reef, because this makes it easier to catch them. However, the first shot ended in failure. When Xiaolan came up to take a breath and then dove back down, there were 2 little sharks swimming nearby her. The little sharks seemed to have caught the scent of food. They kept circling around Xiaolan. This way, it made it significantly more difficult for Xiaolan to catch her prey. At that moment, Xiaoke, who was filming, couldn't hold back. He immediately switched roles. He then targeted a yellow croaker. He drew the bow and shot, but the fish still swam away without a trace. Reluctant Xiaoke surfaced to catch his breath. He quickly returned to the bottom of the sea. Once again, I locked onto a yellow grouper near the coral reef. 1 shot fired. It hit the tail. Unfortunately, the spear couldn't secure it firmly. It still managed to escape. At that moment, 2 nearby small sharks sensed the blood. They tried to compete with Xiaoke for a meal. Meanwhile, the yellow grouper that had just been shot was hiding beneath the rocks. It tried to evade Xiaoke's hunt by hiding, but in the end, it was captured by Xiaoke. The scent of the yellow grouper's blood attracted more small sharks. For their own safety, Xiaoke and the others could only stay away from this dangerous place. They went ashore to start today's special cooking. After setting up the fire, they began to search for cooking ingredients. Xiaoke was seen holding the dragon-slaying knife. He cut off a few unspread palm leaves. This was one of the important ingredients for cooking today. Xiaoke quickly removed the innards of the yellow croaker. He scraped off the fish scales. He made a few cuts on both sides of the yellow croaker. This would help the fish meat cook more quickly. He rinsed it clean. He tightly wrapped it with the palm leaves he had just picked. This was to prevent it from falling apart while roasting. He also tied up both ends of the palm leaves, just in case. Next, he organized the campfire. This made the charcoal fire burn more evenly and reasonably. Then, he placed the wrapped yellow croaker in the charcoal fire. He covered it with a few layers of soaked palm leaves on top. Today's special cooking method was thus complete. Now they just need to quietly wait. This is also the slowest moment of their day. Time passes the slowest during this moment. This cooking method appears to be less perfect than they imagined. The palm leaves that were used to wrap the yellow croaker are completely burned to ashes. Moreover, the bottom of the yellow croaker is charred black. It seems Xiaolan did not control the heat properly this time. She didn't manage it well. However, the parts on top that are not burnt are still edible. Xiaoke uses a small knife to remove the burnt parts. Impatient Xiaolan. She tears off a big piece of fish meat with her hands and takes a bite. The flavor is still incredibly delicious and tasty, adding a little bit of sea salt. Although the taste cannot be called exquisite, it can still be described as rich and sweet. The unbeatable scenery, the intoxicating food, with a beautiful companion by my side. Happiness is this simple. Do you also long for this simple yet colorful island life? Have you ever tried surviving on an island as a man and a woman? I'm hungry in the morning, so I fish on the inner shore of the island. Breakfast is easily sorted like this. If you want to increase the variety of food, just pick up some dry wood and light it on the stones by the sea. Many oysters will immediately open up for you to take. Of course, if you're not afraid of the crocodiles on the island, you can also continue exploring the mangroves. A large number of mussels are hidden in the mud. I guarantee that at this moment, you will feel like opening the door to endless treasures. Surviving on an island isn't so bad after all. Early this morning, Xiao Ku and his girlfriend Xiao Lan are on a remote island in northern Australia, proving that survival on a deserted island can be easy and endlessly fun. When you're hungry, just start fishing. However, sometimes food will come right into the net. Like this shovelnose ray. Occasionally, they end up stranded on the beach, ready for you to butcher. Shovelnose archspecies. Today, we encountered Xiao Ku, so he was able to be reborn. We can see from the camera. The environment of this deserted island in Australia is extremely beautiful. The nearby waves occasionally wash up onto the beach, chasing each other, playing with each other. It feels like they're welcoming you from afar. And the distant waves, one after another, a row after a row. The whole deserted island is shaped by nature's incredible craftsmanship. Sometimes quiet, sometimes wild. Very special. Always capable of making one feel relaxed and amazed. It's a great place to relax. However, the prerequisite is that you know how to survive. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Ku caught a sharp-snouted bass weighing about 5 to 6 pounds. He pulled it up. This type of sharp-snouted bass grows quickly and has delicious, high-quality flesh. It's one of the premium seafood fish. Once there were ingredients, of course, it was time to process them quickly, to appease the already hungry stomach. On this deserted island, there is no shortage of dry branches and leaves. You can always start a fire to cook. While Xiao Ku was waiting for the fire to turn to charcoal, Xiao Lan suddenly stomped her feet and shouted. She felt regret because she had just lost another sharp-snouted bass. Isn't this precisely the essence of wilderness survival? There are gains and losses in everything. Nature can surprise you at any moment. Similarly, it can also disappoint you anywhere. However, this kind of thrill, Xiao Ku and Xiao Lan were already used to it, and they really enjoy this kind of fun. But playing is one thing, joking around is another. In the wilderness, one must still pay attention to safety. Xiao Ku discovered many different footprints on the beach. Moreover, the strange footprints extended into the mangroves. From the shape and size of the footprints, along with an shaped drag mark between the two sets of footprints, Xiao Ku concluded that this was evidence left by a crocodile. Additionally, many local news reports have covered crocodile attacks on campers. Therefore, Little K and his team had to be extra careful. Oman ought croc to save bay, says O. In order for the fish flesh to cook faster and more evenly, the fire has almost burned down. Xiao Ku is now hurriedly handling the recently caught Asian sea bass. He picks up a small knife. He vigorously scrapes the Asian sea bass. Soon, the hard scales are completely scraped off. Then, he separates the fish bones from the fish flesh of the Asian sea bass, performing the separation of bones and flesh. Then Xiao Ku uses Himalayan pink fine salt to perform a point massage on the fish flesh, to ensure the fish meat cooks faster and more evenly. It must be cut into small pieces, if you want to remove the fishy smell from the Asian sea bass. Then adding a bit of already minced garlic is essential. Next, add some cooking oil to the pot. When the oil starts to sizzle, it's the perfect time to pan-fry the fish. The tender-fleshed barramundi sizzles as it fries, and the air is filled with an unparalleled fish aroma. The skin is intact, and the meat doesn't crumble. Crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, salty and flavorful. It's truly a perfect dish to pair with drinks. Xiao Lan lies back, happily feasting. A bite of rice. A bite of the pan-fried fish. This blissful life on a deserted island, I also want to have. At this moment, Xiao Ku also picks up his hard work. With one bite, the fibers of the barramundi are close and delicate, combined with a soft and smooth texture. It truly makes your mouth water and leaves you wanting more. Even the grease stuck to my fingers cannot be wasted. Is this free and unrestrained wilderness life the kind of life you want? If you have a unique love for eating raw seafood, you might want to try Xiao Ku's method when you have the chance. Find 1 or 2 large stones by the beach that are covered with many oysters. Lay some dry branches and leaves on top. Then, light a campfire. It will start to burn fiercely. Wait for the big fire to burn down completely. Finally, after clearing the ash from the stones, take a screwdriver and gently pry open the oysters. You will find that the previously tight-lipped oysters are now wide open, ready for you to take. Add a splash of lemon juice for garnish. The oysters, with their pure white flesh, have a rich and salty ocean flavor, and after biting into the tender oyster, it's sweet and refreshing. The skirt and the oyster body, smooth and springy, a sweet aftertaste. It has a mineral-like flavor. This way of eating, I believe many people haven't tried this. Xiao Ke seems to be a bit dissatisfied with today's recipe, so he took the risk of encountering a crocodile. He entered the mangrove forest in search of another delicacy. It's this kind of mud clam that is about the size of half a fist. It hides just like the soft-shelled crab. They both like to hide in the mud. Xiao Ke effortlessly collected more than 10 mud clams. They are not small either. Sometimes, you don't even need your eyes to find where they are hiding. Just keep stepping in the mud with your feet to easily discover them. Gently scrape off the mud from the clam's body with your fingers. It will also exhibit a conditioned reflex. It sprays a small jet of water. Just give it a quick rinse. This mussel is indeed quite large. Xiao Ke looked up to check the sky. It was getting late. He needed to find more mussels as soon as possible, and then leave this place. By the time night was approaching, this mangrove would become very unsafe, because the crocodiles on the island would return to their nests. In no time at all, after Xiao Ke had gathered enough mussels, he began to make his way back home. Happiness is that simple. Do you long for such a lifestyle? When you have a soulmate, you might as well learn from the male and female protagonists in the video. During your leisure time, have a 2-day, 1-night survival experience on a deserted island. Feeling thirsty, he picked some coconuts to quench his thirst. He was tired from walking. So, he lay back on a uniquely shaped coconut tree, enjoying the coolness, letting the wind blow over him, experiencing the symphony of the sea breeze and seawater. Of course, you can also create a simple bamboo raft, playing around in the vast ocean under the blue sky and clear sea, while also enjoying the beautiful scenery of the island. Diving is certainly a must. And by the way, a soul shot wouldn't hurt. This way, dinner is sorted. The male protagonist, Xiao Ke, is a wilderness survival enthusiast. Today, he brought his girlfriend, Xiao Lan. They arrived at a remote, uninhabited island to carry out a 2-day, 1-night survival on the deserted island. Xiao Ke felt tired and thirsty. He climbed directly up a coconut tree to pick a few coconuts, with skilled knife techniques, causing the coconuts on this palm tree to fall entirely onto the beach. It seems Xiao Ke often does things like this. Meanwhile, his girlfriend Xiao Lan pays no mind to Xiao Ke. She climbs up a uniquely shaped coconut tree, beginning to enjoy the harmonious sounds of the sea breeze and waves. This vividly beautiful scene truly lifts the spirits and refreshes the mind. Even the hermit crabs on the ground seem to enjoy it. Connected to the vast waves and the sea, the flat sand stretches endlessly. Such a beautiful beach. Not going for a dive to enjoy the underwater view would indeed be a shame. Being able to swim alongside the legendary devil rays, truly an extraordinary experience, not to be missed in this life. After the two finished admiring the underwater scenery, they began searching for delicious food in the sea to fill their growling stomachs. Just as Xiao Lan was hunting around without success, Xiao Ke had already caught a black skipjack weighing about 5 to 6 kilograms. At this moment, an unexpected guest suddenly arrived, drawn by the scent of blood. Seeing this, Xiao Ke quickly took the black skipjack out of the water to avoid being attacked by sharks. In order to roast the black skipjack properly, Xiao Ke cut a few forked branches and directly stuck them in on either side of the fire pit. Then he placed a few branches, stripped of their leaves, across the forks. Meanwhile, Xiao Lan was not idle either. She tirelessly collected dry firewood and added it to the fire pit. The two worked in an organized manner with clear divisions of labor. Once everything was ready, Xiao Lan lit the campfire to prepare for Xiao Ke to start cooking. Meanwhile, after Xiao Ke cleaned the blackfin mackerel, he began to gut and clean it. He removed the insides and gills of the mackerel. Then he made a few cuts on the fish meat, which would not only help the mackerel cook quickly, but also let Xiao Ke monitor the cooking progress. This blackfin mackerel was indeed large. The grill almost couldn't support it. With food at hand, then, a naturally delicious drink was, of course, essential. Xiao Ke's speed in opening coconuts could be described as swift as the wind and lightning, resolving their hunger and thirst in just a few strokes. Meanwhile, Xiao Lan continued to add firewood to the flames. The two of them waited for the delicious meal, while enjoying the wonderful life that the pleasant scenery brought them. Isn't this the lifestyle that most people long for? The sky gradually darkened. The side of the black pomfret facing the fire crackled as it was being roasted. It was time to flip it to the other side. To prevent the black pomfret from falling into the fire when it was fully cooked, Xiao Ku even moved the black pomfret down a bit. Shortly after, the delicious roasted black pomfret meal was completed. Xiao Ku's roasting skills this time were quite good. Whether it was the roasting height or time, both were controlled perfectly. Just looking at the roasting color, it was definitely an extraordinary performance. Taking a bite, he couldn't help but nod in admiration repeatedly. Truly, the spring breeze is nothing compared to being with you. Early the next morning. Of course, we must have some pure coconut water. It's refreshing. It's as big as Xiao Lan's head. Enough to fill her up for a meal. Because coconut water contains essential nutrients for the body, as well as various amino acids that boost physical performance. In the hot summer, it is definitely a great natural drink that cools you down and quenches your thirst. If you find a pair of flip-flops on a deserted island, don't be surprised. Because it shows the extent of human capabilities to destroy the environment. Just how strong and ignorant mankind can be. It seems this pair of flip-flops is quite good. It allows Xiao Ku to move freely on the rocky beach, coming and going with ease. The two of them play wild, enjoying the happiness and freedom that nature brings them. Xiao Ku picked up some nuts and a few coconuts from the ground. Then he used a small stone to crack open the nuts. The fruits inside were indeed crunchy and delicious, about the size of peanuts. In no time at all, Xiao Ku had a small bowl of tasty fruits. The variety of food, Xiao Ku certainly wouldn't refuse. After a few strikes, a huge coconut was smashed beyond recognition by Xiao Ku. Next, he forcefully tore open the tough coconut husk and cracked the shell. Thick coconut flesh was revealed inside. If you find the coconut flesh too hard, you could also pry open those coconuts that have already started to sprout. The coconut gems inside them will definitely make you linger and love them without hesitation. Xiao Lan, who was photographing nearby, also couldn't resist the temptation of the food. Let's take a bite. Today's breakfast was resolved simply and satisfactorily. After eating and drinking well, of course, we have to enjoy this charming beach. The tiny grains of sand, the rippling azure waves, shimmer frequently in the sunlight. Diving, of course, belongs to the utmost pleasure. For Xiao Lan, who always cares for the environment, seeing marine debris on the seabed, she undoubtedly took it upon herself to pick it up. The shallow sea is a colorful world. Creatures bathe in the bright, warm seawater. Wonderful little fish roam among the vibrant corals. Of course, sharks sometimes come to join the fun. Adding Xiao Bao's graceful swimming, dances elegantly in the rising waves, instantly forming a beautiful and moving picture. It's truly indescribably beautiful. There was no complete diving gear. It was unrealistic to think about walking further to see the island. So, Xiao Ku and the others planned to make a simple bamboo raft. They collected a large amount of bamboo by the sea. Of course, foam and buoy balls were also essential. They made simple adjustments to the bamboo. Next, they used the collected rope. They lined up all the bamboo and tied them securely. One layer of bamboo didn't provide enough buoyancy, so they added another layer. They also secured foam and buoy balls around the sides. Thus, this simple bamboo raft was completed. The moment to witness a miracle had finally arrived. The two sat on it, and although it sank a bit, it was still usable with some effort. This victory was significant for them. It is an achievement. It is a reward for one's dreams and efforts. Riding the winds and breaking the waves, walking on water. After enjoying the breathtaking scenery of the ocean and the deserted island, ingredients for dinner, it should also be time to prepare. Xiao Ku holds a spear gun. He hunts around the coral reef at the bottom of the sea. After confirming the hunting target, he pulls the trigger. The spear hits the target. A 5-pound fish falls into his grasp. At this moment, sharks nearby are drawn by the scent of blood. They attempt to share in Xiao Ku's catch. Xiao Ku will certainly not give the sharks any chance. He quickly brings the big fish to the surface. Meanwhile, Xiao Lan stands ready with her gun at the ready. After reaching the shore, when he hangs the big fish to one side, the surrounding hermit crabs also come to have a taste. Even the long-hidden coconut crabs come out to try a bite. However, after noticing the approaching Xiao Ku, they immediately scurried back into the forest. Unfortunately, they could not escape Xiao Ku's keen eyes and quick hands. The axe held it down. The hand grabbed it. This coconut crab is not particularly big. In fact, they can grow up to 1 meter long. They are not only the largest terrestrial crabs, but also the largest terrestrial arthropods. They have a massive body size. Their weight can reach up to 8 kilograms. The coconut crab's shell is hard. They have 2 strong, powerful claws. At the same time, they are expert climbers. They are especially skilled at climbing straight coconut trees, because they can use their strong claws to crack open hard coconut shells, named for eating the coconut flesh inside. However, in 1996, the coconut crab was listed by the World Conservation Union. Therefore, consuming coconut crabs is illegal. In the end, Xiao Ku still released it, returning it to the wild. He gathered firewood and started cooking. Xiao Ku's skilled knife work quickly broke down the large fish into 3 pieces. He kept only 2 thick, succulent pieces of fish. The remaining fish head and bones were returned to the ocean. To comfort the sorrowful sharks today. As the saying goes, dust to dust, earth to earth. The big fish returned home to find their masters. Seeing the fresh sashimi in Xiaoku's hands. Did you want some soy sauce and a bit of wasabi? Today, it seems Xiaoku has a new way to enjoy dinner. He cracked open the coconut. Let the coconut water go directly into the pot. Then use a small knife to scrape off a lot of coconut flesh. With the coconut water, coconut flesh, and fruits in the pot. After mixing and bringing it to a boil. Paired with tonight's star. Large slices of fish. The delicious seafood and fruit feast in the pot has been successfully completed. An unbeatable sea view and intoxicating food. Plus, there's a beautiful companion. It truly makes one unable to resist. One's appetite is whetted. It turns out that happiness is this simple. Such a carefree lifestyle. Do you long for it? I have never seen survival on such a deserted island. Not only is there no need to go hungry, but one can also search for delicious food in the wild. This time, Xiaoku and his girlfriend Xiaolan arrived at an island abundant in marine resources. For an extremely rich island survival trial. There was no shortage of anything, including lobsters, crabs, and grouper. And you can spend the night with your beloved. Overnight on a charming island. One must wonder about such a survival mode. No wonder Uncle De cried upon seeing it. Grandpa Bei would have his heart broken. Today is the first day of survival on the deserted island for Xiaoku and Xiaolan. Their mood at this moment is even more carefree than the distant waves. The first thing to do upon waking up in the morning. Of course, it's to fill their stomachs first. To replenish the energy consumed last night. The two are chatting casually on the beach, while looking for suitable food. This pile of hermit crabs in front of them seems far too small. Even though the quantity is not bad. But they are not only hard to eat. Plus, they are not enough to fill their stomachs at all. Not long after, Xiaolan discovered a stranded small grouper by the beach. But she thinks it's not right to eat an underage fish in the morning. It truly pains the heart. So, I took the initiative to set it free. Suddenly, a wild iron appeared in the shallow bay. This is a powerful tool for survival on a deserted island. In the end, Xiaolan just picked up a beautiful small stone nearby. Is this what they call the differences between men and women? Their focus is completely on different channels. Even if a big fish swims by, they remain unfazed. And this large turtle with a green grassland on its back before them, is just a tool for Xiaolan to take photos and share on social media. They completely forgot about their mission to forage for food. Goodness. When did the challengers of survival on a deserted island become so indifferent to food? It's really tough for Grandpa Da and Grandpa Bei next door. They often munch on a large, juicy bug in one bite. A sip of cow dung to quench their thirst. However, Xiaoku and Xiaolan had no appetite for these. They had no desire for the all-natural seafood. Just when the two didn't know what to eat, they discovered a coconut tree that was growing just for Xiaolan. They hadn't had anything to drink since they woke up. So let's start with a sip of pure, natural coconut water. The gentle and kind Xiaolan took a large machete, and with a swift motion, she chopped the coconut a few times. She called out to Xiaoku to come over and drink it while it was fresh. Afterwards, the two decided to dive into the sea, to see if there were any seafood they liked to eat. In the clear underwater, there were still countless schools of fish, leisurely swimming around the seabed. Although the two dived underwater under the pretext of hunting, but looking at the unique and beautiful seascape before them. For a moment, they even forgot about the killing. However, they still had to eat. Xiaoku took aim with a deadly shot. The star of today's dinner table would be it. Just as Xiaoku was about to surface with the fish, a shark, drawn by the scent of blood, appeared from the depths. Xiaoku was instantly scared out of his wits. He hurriedly swam desperately toward the shore. Although it was just a small shark, its lethality in the water was still quite impressive. Fortunately, the shark did not attack them. They safely returned to the island, albeit shaken. Xiaolan discovered a piece of driftwood along the beach. She smiled as if her mouth could stretch for miles. She should really like this. Under her persuasive and gentle insistence, Xiaoku finally agreed to take this piece of driftwood back to their temporary shelter. This is their secret base for resting. During the day, it faces the sea, providing shade and ventilation. At night, it allows them to gaze at the stars and keep sounds discreet. It's indeed quite nice. It's time to start preparing for breakfast. While Xiaolan introduced her mount, she organized the campsite and food, while Xiaoku gathered firewood to prepare a delicious meal. A home with a woman in it is indeed different. Look at how Xiaolan has arranged their temporary shelter. So beautifully. Simple yet uniquely styled. This is the charm of life. Xiaolan looked at her lover, who was busy running around, sweating profusely. To lighten Xiaoku's workload, she directly picked up the machete and swiftly chopped the coconut a few times. The coconut was quickly split in half by her. It seems that Xiaolan is not only good looking. Thinking to herself, I definitely won't be a vase. She then found a banana leaf and tore it open. She roasted it over the fire for a few seconds. This was done for sterilization and softening. Afterwards, she cut the fish they had caught into pieces. Then she arranged these pieces of fish separately, on top of the softened banana leaves. At that moment, Xiaoku also scraped out the coconut flesh. He mixed it with the fish to enhance the flavor. Finally, it was left to the skillful Xiaolan to wrap all the fish pieces up, just like wrapping Zongzi. A total of 4 were wrapped. Xiaolan placed them one by one into the fire to roast. It looked just like making beggar's chicken. This method of preparation is truly unique. The taste should be pretty good too. After 20 minutes, a rich aroma had already filled the air. Xiaolan picked up a piece and opened it to take a look. A burst of steaming fragrance wafted towards her. Moreover, it carried a refreshing coconut flavor. This color, this flavor, this presentation, could definitely be described as having the perfect color, aroma, and taste. The two of them enjoyed the beautiful ocean, while having a unique seafood feast. The word envy no longer suffices to describe how they felt at that moment. Bringing his beautiful girlfriend to a deserted island for a survival experiment. What kind of survival experience is this? That day, Xiaolan made a bold request to Xiao Ku. She wanted him to join her in experiencing the feeling of being stranded on a deserted island. Xiao Ku agreed without any hesitation. If it were you, would you agree? Just like that, they decided to go. They immediately took a large machete and a small dagger. They arrived at a deserted island. They were going to test a 2-day and 1-night wilderness survival experience. Survival on a deserted island as a man and a woman. Without needing to think, you can guess what interesting things will happen next. The shore was littered with human trash. However, these seemingly useless things were very useful to Xiao Ku and the others. While Xiao Ku was busy searching for usable items, Xiaolan, my girlfriend, is actually enjoying the cool seawater. She is enjoying the refreshing feel of the seawater. Isn't it said that a man and a woman working together makes it less tiring? Xiaolan's sneaky tricks are too obvious. You'll have a good time tonight. Xiao Ku continues to pick up trash along the beach. A plastic bottle and a roll of fishing line. Plus, there's a fish hook and some bait. A simple fishing tool is ready to use. Turning trash into survival tools. It's a necessary skill for every wilderness survivalist. Whether I can catch fish is another matter. However, that's a different story. But this homemade fishing tool clearly has no real use. Watching the sea full of fish. Unfortunately, they just won't take the bait. It's not only a waste of effort but also a waste of time. Since I have a kitchen knife on me, why not make a spear to catch fish for real? Sharpen a stick and set off immediately. But the start didn't go well. They encountered a sea snake blocking their way. Xiao Ku chose not to disturb its bathing. He opted for another shallow area in the mangroves. I heard that men with a lot of hair on their chests usually have abundant physical strength. Look at Xiao Ku's several consecutive spear throws. This saying turns out to be true. Xiao Ku lunged at any fish he saw with his spear. What power! The force! This speed! It can truly be said to be unmatched. Unfortunately, he lacked good judgment. In the end, he didn't catch a single fish successfully. He didn't get the chance to show off in front of Xiaolan. Meanwhile, Xiaolan started to get proactive as well. At this moment, finding a clean water source was her only task. However, in this wide open place, it's truly a challenge for me to find a clean water source. The intelligent Xiaolan thought of using distillation to obtain water, utilizing the intense sun and the high temperatures on the beach. Extracting a small amount of fresh water shouldn't be difficult. First, dig a large hole on the scorching sand. Then, place the found plastic bucket in the center. Next, lay a pile of fresh leaves around the plastic bucket. Then, cover it with a piece of collected plastic film. However, this new piece of plastic film looks a bit fake. We'll just make do with it. Finally, use stones and sand to seal the edges of the plastic film tightly. With Xiao Ku's help, Xiaolan's water collection device was quickly set up with just a few moves. Now they just have to wait for the sun to shine intensely. The ocean resources here are truly abundant. In the clear sea, different schools of fish swim by from time to time. But even so, Xiao Ku still hasn't been able to catch a small fish for lunch. Fortunately, Xiaolan doesn't look down on her boyfriend at all. It doesn't matter even if there's no food. It doesn't matter even if there's no food. Because they have dog food to sundry. Xiaolan suggested they light a fire first and then talk. After all, luck is something that goes quickly and comes quickly. Xiao Ku used the found light bulb as a magnifying glass to focus and start the fire. Xiaolan also picked up the high-powered glasses to focus sunlight on the dry grass to ignite it. An hour passed, and the two still made no progress. Thought wearing glasses would make me smarter. In the end, reality slapped me in the face. Xiao Ku, in the end, had no choice but to resort to the most primitive way of making fire. In the wilderness, physical strength and mental acuity are indeed both essential. After Xiao Ku had a moment of cracking his knuckles, the roaring fire was ignited instantly. Xiaolan, however, showcased her intelligence to the fullest, taking advantage of the moment when Xiao Ku went out to find food. To prove that her idea was feasible, she pulled a fast one. And the muscle-bound, simple-minded Xiao Ku really believed it to be true. But that's okay. Women are meant to be cherished in one's heart, even if one knows the truth. I believe Xiao Ku would pretend to be clueless too. This is quite good. The distillation device was exposed to the sun for several hours. Inside the plastic film, it was already covered with small, crystal-clear droplets, and half a liter of fresh water flowed into the barrel. Thirsty Xiaolan took a drink first as a sign of respect, although it was her first time drinking water from such a plastic barrel. Furthermore, the taste of the fresh water was somewhat hard to describe, but it was certainly much better than being unbearably thirsty. Before they knew it, afternoon had arrived. Having only sipped some fresh water to satisfy their hunger, they endured their hunger and went to the beach to collect shells. At this moment, the sea water was clearly receding. This was undoubtedly fantastic news. Pampered Xiaolan took a stone and cracked open an oyster. Starving, she popped the flesh and the roe into her mouth. That tangy sensation. I almost threw up the western food I ate last night. Meanwhile, Xiaoke found a piece. It was a rock covered in oysters, and he caught an octopus hiding in a small puddle. To prevent it from escaping, Xiaoke couldn't resist and took a bite to kill it. This plump octopus is their seafood feast for tonight. However, Xiaoke felt that he used just as much energy at night as during the day. So he entered the mangroves again to continue looking for wild food. To his surprise, the resources in the mangroves were pitifully scarce. Xiaoke only found a few small clams. There was nothing he could do about it. Better than nothing, I guess. At worst, they can just keep the activities quiet tonight. Anyway, Xiaolan is there to keep him company. Everything is worth it. Xiaolan suddenly remembered they had no place to stay for the night. So she improvised using materials from the beach. She used dry branches she had gathered. She built a simple temporary shelter. The length and width of the shelter was just enough for 2 people to sleep in. But that's fine too. Being close together keeps them warmer. However, looking at the unstable 4 poles of the shelter, sleeping inside at night might be a bit unsafe, right? At this moment, Xiaoke couldn't worry too much. Starting a campfire in front of the shelter was the priority. It could provide warmth, and also cook food. It's a win-win. There's no time to waste, he should start cooking right away. Xiaoke placed the whole stone covered in oysters next to the fire to roast. Meanwhile, he had a metal can that he picked up by the seaside. Put the cleaned octopus and clams inside. Then place it in the fire and wait. A cool breeze began to caress every inch of their skin. The two were only wearing a few pieces of fabric. However, seeing their smiling and talking expressions, they seemed unconcerned about the gradually cooling evening weather. Perhaps this is what they mean by love makes one feel content. At this point, the seafood feast was basically cooked through. Enjoying the delicious seafood, they admired the quiet night scenery of the deserted island. Truly beautiful. So beautiful. Then we won't disturb them. Let the 2 of them await the arrival of midnight. I've seen plenty of blue crabs, but I've never seen a blue crab this big before. Its massive claws were surprisingly comparable to a human hand. They brought it ashore and started playing with the big blue crab. There is more than one such big blue crab. There are many more in the milky white mud pit, with his beloved girlfriend by his side. What is it like to catch fish and shrimp on a deserted island? As evening approached, they could see groups of sharks foraging near the shore. Nick took his girlfriend early in the morning to catch fish and shrimp on the island. To avoid going hungry, Nick would reach into any cave he saw to search. After searching, he found nothing at all. He could only continue searching along the shore. The mudflat was covered in milky white soil. Walking on it was also very smooth. A flower crab blocked their path, and they're very fierce. Such little creatures naturally did not catch Nick's eye. There are more than one type of crab here. Soon after, Nick found a large soft-shelled crab. Such a large one must be hiding something big. To keep his fingers safe, he also prepared a piece of dry bark as protection. After a round of fishing in murky water, he finally pinpointed the crab's location. He used the bark to push it out of the water. Then he grabbed the crab's back leg with his left hand. A big blue crab was finally in his grasp. Unfortunately, this big blue crab was female. You can tell the gender from the crab's abdomen. After putting it down, he continued searching in the puddle. There must be a male crab in such a large puddle. With the help of driftwood, they dared to use their hands to search for the crab's location. After a round of exploration, they managed to clarify the crab's position. Through the method of manipulation, the crab's massive claws began to surface. Xiaoke slowly began to lift the crab with the driftwood. They waited for the right moment, and immediately grabbed the crab's claw and threw it onto the mudflat. The size of the crab they caught surprised both of them. Just as Xiaoke reached out to grab it, the large blue crab executed a backflip attack. It was only under the pressure of the driftwood that they managed to grab the crab's hind legs. The earlier female crab also weighed over 2 pounds, and this male crab certainly did not disappoint them. The spread of its claws was as wide as Xiaoke's shoulders. Such scenes are inseparable from staging and admiration. After washing them in the water, the outline of the crabs became more distinct. Nick placed the 2 crabs together to conduct a brief farewell ceremony. This farewell meant never seeing each other again. Finally, he placed the male crab next to the puddle, while the female crab was placed directly back into the puddle. Just when I thought Nick was going to break them apart, the male crab soon entered the puddle. This release made me see a master crab catcher with virtue. Master, please accept my respect. Such actions also made Nick feel happy. It was as if he had returned to his childhood. Soon after, he arrived at the milky white stream to chase fish for fun. Hundreds and thousands of small fish jumped out of the water in a panic. It's clearer in the long shot. This place has abundant resources, a sparse population, and a beautiful environment. It's indeed a great vacation spot for couples. This technique also allowed them to catch quite a few small fish. The small fish they caught will definitely be today's lunch. They arrived at the shore to start processing the catch. This small knife is part of their survival gear on the island. After processing the catch, the dry branches they collected nearby can be used to start a fire. The small fish inside quickly sizzled as it was fried. It's quite rare to enjoy such a delicious picnic in the wild. After eating and drinking their fill, they began to appreciate the scenery here. During their playtime, they also needed to search for food for dinner. While searching for shells, they unexpectedly discovered a small crab. In the tidal flat after the tide recedes, many sea turtles have actually washed ashore. Moreover, there is a sea turtle stranded on the shore, exposed to the sun. He even brought a spear to look for fish in the tidal flats. He also discovered a turtle carcass nearby. While walking, a shadow ahead surprised both Nick and the others. Upon getting closer, they found it was an enormous crab lying in the water. As soon as he reached out, the giant crab in the water fiercely retaliated. Startled, Nick quickly withdrew his hand. Then, with both hands, he quickly grabbed the massive crab claw. The huge crab claw was comparable to Nick's arm. He has seen many blue crabs, but he had never seen such a large blue crab before. Compared to the first large blue crab caught just now, it's truly a case of the small showing up against the big. The environment here is picturesque. It's amazing that such huge crabs can be found here. Even Nick, who has seen a lot, is seeing a blue crab this big for the first time. To admire the majestic presence of the large blue crab, they brought it ashore for a closer look. Getting pinched by such large claws would surely be disastrous for a finger. After some humanitarian handling, Nick's girlfriend dragged the large blue crab back to the campsite. Along the way, they encountered a turtle blocking the path. Unfortunately, this large blue crab is a bachelor. Otherwise, it wouldn't have had such an encounter. During their walk, a small fish jumped out from between their legs. This startled Nick's girlfriend, causing her to panic. Soon they arrived at the shore. There was another large sea turtle stranded in the shallows at the shore. The aerial view of the scenery is indeed beautiful. The girlfriend dragged the large soft-shelled crab back to the camp. Tonight's meal will be this large soft-shelled crab. It will become a delicious grilled crab. After waiting for the firewood to turn to charcoal, the large soft-shelled crab can come in handy. Its pincers are bigger than a palm. Directly lay the crab on its back in the fire pit. In the high-temperature fire pit, the crab's back legs instantly turn bright orange. While waiting for the crab to cook, the two unexpectedly lay down to rest. The sun hasn't set yet, but the seawater has already risen. Schools of small sharks have also been brought to the shore by the rising water. After roasting for a while, the large crab needs to be flipped. The crab's shell has turned a bright oranger. The cooked crab also needs a cold water rinse. Only the crab that has experienced both ice and fire can be considered a top gourmet delicacy. Just look at the size of this crab. It can't even fit in a pot for cooking. Placing it on the board means we can enjoy tonight's feast. The two large claws of the crab are what they crave the most. A school of small sharks have been washed ashore. It actually made Nick put down his food to go check it out. Such a phenomenon is very rare. The river sharks were surprisingly brought ashore by the sea. The scenery doesn't solve the problem of being hungry. The large crab claws are what they long for the most. The two large claws were removed by them in advance. The enormous claws shattered under the pounding of the rocks. The snowy white crab meat is mouth-watering. While enjoying the delicious food, they also admire the evening glow. Even the small sharks in the sea come to join the feast. In this situation, I want to compose a poem. The yellow crane departs and never returns. The white clouds drift endlessly through the ages. Alright, that's it for this video. The world becomes more wonderful because of it.